So E3, that was a thing. That happened.
It did happen. What was your, or what would you say is the cringiest moment of E3 that you saw?
Probably the please clap thing.
Yeah.
It's a tie between Please Clap and the musical introduction that they had for Rage 2. We're all talking about it's Ubisoft no matter what. I mean, definitely them.
I really just don't really like live music in general, so that's on me. Apparently the guy who was singing is really nice. Like, I was watching it with some other people and they recognized the guy, like, oh, he's really nice, but this is kind of awkward.
I mean, I will say, I mean, I'm a fan of live music that I like, right? And so one thing that did cross my mind as I was watching this is, every time you do this, there's a part of me that feels bad for the musicians also, because the crowd's not into it. It's not your fans. It's not fans of your music that came to watch you play. So everybody's kind of awkward. They're sort of not into it. I'll give credit to that band. They play their ass off. Like, they were going as enthusiastically, fully into it. And sometimes that's hard when it's not really the big reactions as if it was like, say, people that knew your music coming in.
Yeah.
So props to that guy. I just didn't like him.
But yeah, then all the clap moments. Oh god, that was really bad. How many did you count? Like 7 or something in that one press conference?
I counted 7 or 8, but I definitely missed some. It had to be more than that. Almost everybody who came up, every 2 sentences, they would pause and kind of like wait for the claps, and some of them were just straight up like, "No, come on, clap."
Oh man, that was. I don't know. What would you say is the worst conference?
It might be Ubisoft. I mean, I know some people are going to say that I am... Oh, wait. I'm getting confused. I said Ubisoft. The musical performance in the Please Clap was Bethesda. So I could totally have to get that correct. That was Bethesda.
Was it Bethesda?
Yeah, it was Bethesda because Rage 2.
Oh, right. Okay. Ubisoft was the one that had the microphone not being able to cut off, right?
That's right. They're the ones who, they wouldn't cut off the mic. And it was so funny because after the 2 individuals who, bless their hearts, they're just so enthusiastic. And every time they're on stage, they just look grateful. The 2 folks that are talking about Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember their names, the 2 main developers. That game has been in development for like 15 years, as everybody knows, and so I just feel like they're very excited to be showing it. And right as they walk off the stage, the one
we did it!
The one lady goes, "We nailed it!"
It was, I don't know, I thought it was, like, that didn't make me cringe. It was just really cute, and then I felt bad for them, because, like, it was extremely perfect until someone else fucked up and didn't cut the mics.
Yeah, I thought it was very endearing, and it goes with what I'm saying of, like, I'm rooting for those people. I'm not a huge Beyond Good and Evil fan in general. I'll play it. It looks cool. But I'm like, I want them to, to make their dream game come true.
Oh, man. There's also, I forget what game he was presenting for, but, like, this guy goes up there, does this thing, he comes back, and they didn't cut his mic off. And you hear some guy going, "Oh, man, I'm so sorry." It's like, "Yeah, the other guy didn't do their cue right, so I didn't know when to go out." He's, like, bitching about, like, what happened. That one was pretty good.
And then there was one, I don't know that we caught all of it, but there was one guy who sounded angry, and he's going, "Yeah, she always does that."
Yeah.
I was like, what? Who is she and what does she always do? God.
There's going to be some Office Place drama tomorrow. God.
Dave, I heard you say at the end of your presentation at E3 that I always do that.
You're fired, Dave. Oh, God. Well, anyway, let's talk about, like, the more substantial things. But
yeah, so what's top of your list? I mean, I guess that's the popular question, right? Like, was there anything, I guess, that was most surprising or anything that you expected to see, but that was, like, it made you the most excited?
Well, we're going to save Anthem until, like, later on, so put that there.
Right.
But, like, I guess I'm interested in what Cyberpunk 2077 is. Apparently there was gameplay demos, but, like, I haven't seen any of those videos resurface or anything.
None of us have.
Yeah, did you see the cosplayers? I'm assuming they hired. Did you see those people? I
know the gentleman who did it is the very famous Geralt cosplayer. They actually reached out to him. They know him because he's like the most famous Geralt cosplay guy.
I didn't know that was the same guy, but now that you mention it, they totally have the same face. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, a little bit of fake tan and as opposed to fake paleness, but yeah.
There you go. Yeah, they both cosplayers, the man and the woman, looked great, and they had like those giant collars that glowed, and it looked really cool. So, I think like seeing all the artwork and like the design elements, and that's going to be an RPG where you get to like make your person. Apparently, it is first person. I'm like, I I'm not a huge first-person fan, but I don't know, that one I'm interested in. We have no gameplay, so I can't say I'm like super excited for it. But after that, like, I can't say there was really super anything that really got me really excited. There was that one in the EA conference. I forget what the name is now, but it was that German developer that was really nervous going on to give her game, and then she just had like this, and then she just like nailed it for the rest of the time.
Oh, the lady who went Super Saiyan. Yeah, I thought she was going to have a heart attack, and it's, what is it, SOS? It stands for something.
Yeah,
Signal of something?
I have to look it up now because like it's an indie game and I want to give them.
Oh, absolutely. And we had the same reaction on Twitter of like, oh God, this lady looks nervous. And then she gave a really heartfelt, passionate discussion about why she wants to make this game, and it's about personal loneliness and all of these different themes that seem. I'll totally want to play a game. She inspired me just listening to her.
Sea of Solitude. There it is.
Sea of Solitude. There you go.
That one looked interesting. I liked seeing Yarny. I liked that guy from last year. That was cute. I'm not like I haven't played Unravel, so I don't know if I'd play it. But like if for some reason it was like on sale or something, I think I'd pick it up. But after that, I can't really like say anything that was super interesting for me. What about you?
So I think I'm kind of on the same wavelength as you as far as top of my list is probably Cyberpunk 2077. I do also want to talk about Ghost of Tsushima because holy shit, that looks amazing. But first Cyberpunk. How do I be brief about this? I'm probably following Cyberpunk about as closely as I'm following Anthem, and I don't want to do an episode about Cyberpunk, but in general, I'm really disappointed they didn't show the demo. I tweeted some kind of rage tweets about it, about how ridiculous it is that in 2018, there's two guys on stage at E3 who are constantly referencing a demo that they basically refuse to show to the public. So all of these interviews that and I don't remember their names, the two gentlemen, it was basically the same two guys from CD Projekt who were doing all the interviews. They just kept saying like, well, in the demo we show this, and of course in the demo this, and the demo this, and I'm like, I'm getting really tired of hearing these people talk about the demo and not showing it. And I don't know, I just don't think Games Press should be gatekeepers like that anymore. So that's kind of my main rant on it. But as far as to get what we did see in the trailer and what's being discussed from the gameplay, sounds awesome.
Do you think that maybe, like, at that time, like, they wanted to show it during E3, but that for some reason it just wasn't ready yet, but they were able to get it, done in time for the actual conference?
I think so. I mean, that's what some of the reporters have been saying is, like, it's amazing demo, but there are weird, like, just glitches in there also, right? Like, it's not really show ready. Even so, I mean, if you actually look at the not to jump into Anthem yet, but if you actually look at the Anthem gameplay demo, it is cut. I mean, it is edited. It's not straight. And actually, some people have mentioned that about Anthem as well. Actually, playing it is a little bit different. It's more complete. But that's all. I guess that's all I'll say about it. Yeah, I guess they wanted to, not show all of the bugs as well. So they kind of decided to just show it to the press. But I'm not hyped for that game. I love CD Projekt. I'm replaying Witcher 3 again, and holy shit, there's just no other games honestly that compare. It's so massive and yet so seamless in the way that it interweaves, in particular, side quests with main quests, where it all feels like main content. It's crazy. I'm not thrilled about first person, but I love Deus Ex. Deus Ex is the number one example I would point to people where I say, you're going to get to see your character during cutscenes. You're going to have dialogue choices. It's not going to feel disconnected in the way that you think it will. Plus, you get scythe arms, if you remember from the first teaser trailer.
Oh, yeah, the spider arm thingamabobs.
They said that's an actual upgrade, that your player can use. And that you use it in the demo, that at one point you're like wall running as well. You can do a little bit of wall running with an upgrade, and then you can use those to latch onto the wall and stay there and shoot at people. And I was like, holy crap. So just everything story-wise, that's the top of my list is Cyberpunk 2077.
Anything that perhaps disappointed you in E3?
Yeah, so much. Bethesda, Todd Howard. Do you mean human beings that have broken my heart? Todd Howard. I was.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the Elder Scroll blades.
Actually, it's not even necessarily that. Like, I have an old iPhone 6. Like, I refuse to upgrade my phone anymore because whatever. But so my phone's not even gonna run that. If I had a phone that would run that, I would totally play that. That looks interesting. But the thing that really disappointed me was Fallout 76. Between the few hours of the Xbox conference when they showed it and the Bethesda conference at night when they said that it was online, I was so hyped. I was so hyped for that. He said it was 4 times bigger than Fallout 4. I'm like, oh my God, this is a mainstay Fallout release. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, oh, it's online. It's basically just, there's no NPCs. Like, there's no, fictional NPCs. Like, everybody in there is a person. That totally let me down. My interest dropped very, very low. So that was a disappointment for me.
I would be more interested in it if you could have private servers where it's just like you and a couple friends. And like if you want to fuck with each other in nuclears, that's fine. Like, but I don't know, I just have a problem playing with randos a lot of the time. Because like, why would I want to build a house? Because I'm bad at games. I know myself. I'm confident in my ability to not be able to do it. And I'm going to get my like ass handed to me for the entire time. Like, why would I want to do that? I would rather play with friends where if I get my ass handed to me, we have a good joke about it and that's good,
Yeah.
Like, so if they announced like private servers at any time, then I'd be like, okay, I can handle that. That's fine. But I don't know.
And they mentioned like it's going to be, I guess, somewhat instance because they said you're going to be playing with dozens, not thousands in the world. So I guess they're going to have it broke so it's not too crowded. But I mean, Grand Theft Auto Online, I think, does something similar, and it's super griefy. Like you're just getting griefed constantly in GTA, and that's just not a fun experience for me.
And, like, this one has, like, nukes. Like,
you're incentivizing. The thing, like, Todd Howard is sitting there going, well, we don't want it to be griefy. I go, then why'd you give him nukes?
Exactly. Oh, well, we have the keys. I'm like, you can't tell me that someone's going to, like, hunt down for those keys. Like, I don't know. It's
going to take, like, 30 minutes in one thread on 4chan of people going, like, let's get these codes and grief the crap out of everybody. Mm-hmm.
Especially if you just need, like, the letters and the numbers and input it and not, like, the actual item. If you don't need the item, then people are just going to start spamming out numbers, Like...
Oh, that's true. No, I hope it's the actual item. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Real quick, I do want to just say, not to go off it, what did you think of Ghost of Tsushima? Did you see that demo? At Sony's conference?
I don't remember that one.
It's the samurai one.
Sony was the one where I kind of was like skipping through it because it was like 3 a.m. catching up, and I'm like, I gotta go to bed. So I think I skipped through that one.
It looks phenomenal. The way I would describe it is like the gameplay looks like a mix. It's like God of War meets The Witcher 3 meets Samurais. Mm-hmm. And it's from Sucker Punch, who did Infamous, which I love. And it looks open world-ish, and from what we were told, the demo that we saw, the quest that they were on was a side quest, and holy crap, cinematically, it looked amazing. Like the camera angles and just the composition of the shots and the color and the design. If that's a side quest, holy crap, that raises the bar on everything. So I'm super excited for that. And then, of course, The Last of Us 2. I have to mention that as well.
That one, I don't really play Last of Us, mostly because I don't have, like, a console. But, like, the trailer was really good. Like, I know, like, people are mixed on the kiss, so to speak. Which, weirdly enough, I don't know if you've seen this, but, like, the negative emotions around it isn't so much that it was, like, oh, the gays are in my media. Like, there's been a couple of that, but it's more like... why I guess in this E3 in general, it's only been lesbians that's been getting representation and not so much gay males. So I've seen more like hatred, I guess anger towards like, oh, why couldn't it be 2 guys? And I'm like, well, at the very least, Ellie's an established character. That's her name, right? I don't know. It's just an established character. It made sense. Whatever. But I liked how they did it where like, was it before the kiss or something like, oh, all these guys should fear you. And then it cuts to the gameplay of her just like murdering dudes. I thought that was a really good cutaway. So
I think I don't know what the perception was exactly. I tried to not look at people being angry because it just frustrates me on Twitter. People get angry about everything. But I thought part of it was also the fact that it jumped from the kiss to the violence. Like, some people objected to that. They thought her sexuality and her lethality were somehow being mixed together, which I thought that was the point. I mean, I understand that they're kind of upset by that, but I don't know. I thought it was a great demo. I don't know why people get angry about things so easily. It was a fantastic demo, and there's some diversity and inclusion in there for you. Why nitpick it, you know?
I haven't heard that portion before. Maybe like we're just on two different sides of Twitter or something, but I don't know. Like, I don't know. That seems realistic. Like, she's a girl who has to, like, it's a very wild world out there. She's going to have to defend herself. But then she also has a soft side. Like, I don't know why it has to be one or the other. Whatever. Okay.
I think people are just looking for it with The Last of Us. They had that infamous, shotgun to the face cheering moment, which everybody talked about, for a long time after the first Last of Us E3 demo. I don't know. I don't
remember that.
Yeah, it's like this. It's this, so people took it as this, larger commentary on violence in games. Where at the very end of the first Last of Us E3 demo, he shotguns a downed enemy in the head, and the head just explodes, and then it cuts to The Last of Us, and everybody cheers. And so the narrative became, we're all a bunch of savages. We're cheering for shotguns blowing people's heads off. And isn't that awkward and weird? And I'm like, well, they're kind of cheering for the demo as a whole, like for the fact that the game's coming out, etc. And maybe people did think that, in fictionalized violent video games that looked cool. That became a narrative for a long time. I kind of got that same vibe from this. Like, people were looking to criticize The Last of Us 2 E3, almost like it's a part of the event. Like, The Last of Us is coming. They're doing an E3 demo. What controversy can we manufacture? That's kind of what it felt like to me.
That feels like every event nowadays. Like, oh, how can we pull out that outrage chart and like pull down this giant thing? It's like,
It seems like sport. I seriously have to limit myself from looking at Twitter besides, engaging directly with maybe people who listen to this show and just tweeting things out. Because if I go down the rabbit hole on Twitter, I'm just liable to give myself an aneurysm. It's so ridiculous. So that's kind of E3. That's kind of E3 in general. Some cringe, some cool stuff. Again, recapping, I think we're both big on Cyberpunk 2077. I'm hyped for Ghost of Tsushima. We're probably both hyped for Last of Us, right?
Yeah, I'll definitely watch a playthrough of it. I don't want to get a console just for that game, but is it weird to say I really liked I don't remember her name, but the other girl in the kiss that wasn't Ellie. She had such a cute nose. Is that weird?
I'm trying to remember her nose now.
It was so cute. It was like little rounded and kind of stuck out. I don't know. I thought she looked really cute. Whatever. Point is, I'm disappointed that there was no Animal Crossing in Nintendo. Nintendo's conference was just, here's like 20 minutes of whatever the fuck, and then 45 minutes of Smash Brothers. I don't know if you caught Nintendo's, but...
No, but Caitie, they're bringing back all the old characters of Smash Brothers, which to me was just like, this. I think I tweeted about it too. Like, Nintendo's strategy is like, keep increasing the amount of characters that a game has, like they do with Pokemon or they did with Smash Brothers, and then start to take away characters, and then go, hey, all the characters we took away are back, and then you treat that like a feature. And I'm like, I love Smash Brothers. I'm gonna play it anyway, but come on. I'm
like sort of upset what they did to Zelda. Zelda looked awesome and really any of the, including like the Nintendo 64 versions of the game, and this one she just looks so dorky. What happened? She was my favorite. She was the badass elf magic lady, and now she's like, hi, I'm Zelda. I don't know. That upset me.
do they have multiple designs for her? Because they have multiple Links. Are there multiple Zeldas, or is it just the one?
I hope so, because if she looks that dorky the entire time, I'm just gonna be upset. Like, I don't have a Switch, so I don't know what I'm complaining about it. I'm not gonna buy it, but
on principle, they made her look dorky.
On principle, yeah. They said in the conference that they didn't want to use the what's the new game, Breath of the Wild design, because that Zelda is bookish. So they went with like a Game Boy design, which the Game Boy designs all look terrible. So why didn't you just go with the model you already had?
Yeah, Twilight Princess.
Why did she have to look? Yeah, which looks awesome. I love her design there. Why did you have to change it? I don't know, that upset me. So I'm glad they have Daisy, though. I've always wanted a Daisy, so...
There you go.
There we go. Yeah, got me there. And Ridley was shocking. I did not expect them to...
People are hyped for Ridley.
That. Yeah, I don't know why everyone has such a, I was going to say big boner, but I was thought maybe I shouldn't. I didn't know what else to say otherwise.
Boner
so
for
I just,
Ridley.
here we are. They love him so much. He's like, oh, it's the bad dragon guy? He's an alien? Was he that prominent in Samus's games, Metroid? I might have played one of them. I don't really even remember him in there. So.
No, that's not my series exactly. I just know that people love they just love all these characters in Smash Brothers, which to me, it's like, yeah, I get it. I'm glad Snake is back because I loved Snake when he was in it, but I'm just going to use Ike like I always do, and I'm, maybe going to throw in some Pikachu to annoy people because nothing hurts worse than getting your ass kicked by Pikachu.
And then they have the female Pikachu with the heart. I think that was cute.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's dive into Anthem now. I think I'm ready for some Anthem.
Yeah, we have a lot to cover. So I guess one of the things that I guess we should kind of do up front is before I guess we get into impressions. So we know what the mainstay stuff is now, right? They've said, it's only going to be online. You do have to be connected online. There's going to be one hub. There's going to be one hub section, which is Tarsus plus the mobile hub. The questions that I was dying to know: will there be dialogue trees? Yes, but they're not. Sort of, but they're not going to be as detailed. We're not going to have companions, and you have a character creator, but it's not as detailed as the customization for the javelin.
Yeah.
I kind of thought those were the big. And Casey Hudson saying yes, you can play single player, all the main story content, but Mark Dara saying inherently it's better as a 4-player experience. I kind of feel like that is what I wanted to know coming in. We know that now, but there's still a lot of how do we feel about this? How do you feel about it? How did you feel about it watching the presentation?
Well, it's a weird presentation when I think back to it because so when you're watching the presentation and it, you all the way through, and then when it's done, you're like, oh, okay, that I guess okay. I don't know. I had I wouldn't say mixed, but just milder reaction to it. But then when you hear people that actually got to sit down and play it, they're like, oh, it was so great, doing whatever. Everything felt so smooth. They had just glowing praise for the game. And why didn't they show that? I guess is my confusion. They had a decent portion of it. And I guess they did show bits and pieces where they cut in, but I don't know why they didn't just have someone play the game on stage. And even if they didn't get to show as much, I think just showing them playing the game, that oh, he could do the thing or whatever. Maybe he's even making a mistake on the oh no, he fell to his death. I don't know, that could have been a lot better. I don't know. It's I almost feel like whoever designed the presentation that they had just didn't know what people wanted. And so they just I think I almost feel like they don't really know how to market the game. They're just oh, here's the thing. Do you know this? How about this? How about that? They were just too many places. They need to narrow it down a little bit. So it's like that excited puppy that wants to play with all its toys and didn't know which one to do yet. So it just keeps picking it down and didn't know what to do. That's what I felt of it. Overall, I think now that I've heard all the things, I am pretty excited to play it. It's something that I would like to play, and both my husband would like to play as well. And so it's something that for once there's a video game that kind of could be interesting to both of us in a cooperative experience. So I think that would be fun. So
what did you think of the Q&A portion of the presentation? Did you think that it was awkward, or it broke up the pacing of it?
I did think it was awkward, but it probably did break up the pacing, and I feel like they didn't ask the questions I wanted them to ask.
Well, that's the main thing, right?
Yeah. So, but Mark Dara has been a complete champ. I think he's still... Hold on, I want to look at his Twitter, see if he's still answering questions, because he honestly might.
I saw a post on Reddit where somebody said, I messed up and I turned on notifications for his tweets.
Yeah, here we go. 18 minutes ago, he's answering questions.
He's a beast. He's absolutely been phenomenal as far as engaging with people on Twitter. Yeah,
it's been about a week at this point. He's just been answering questions nonstop. So shout out to him. I think that I don't know, that really impresses me how much he wants to help fans understand like what this game is. And like he keeps like repeating some questions because like I think he just taking his inbox and answering whatever he can.
Yeah.
So
well, props also to BioWare, I think culturally, because I don't think this is a one-off thing. I think Ian Fraser was phenomenal during the lead up to Andromeda talking about stuff. And so I think this is clearly a strategy from BioWare to be super responsive with people on social media, which is like, hey, like major props to them for doing that. Because as I just said, it's messy out there.
Yeah.
So the one thing that keeps coming to mind, because everything that I'm basically going to talk about is like, I want story, I want a strong, single player experience, I want something closer to the BioWare narrative experience, which I don't think is what we're getting, quite frankly. But to talk about the demo first, immediately I noticed where the cuts were, and I was just like, oh boy, I don't like this. I think I even tweeted out something about this because the Rage 2 demo had the same thing, where I'm just like, can we stop showing gameplay, quote-unquote, demos that are edited footage? Because that just totally takes away the point of it being gameplay. I'm not seeing the game being played. I'm seeing segments of gameplay cut together. And so the one thing that I did hear people who played the demo emphasize that they thought was really important, I think it was in the Game Informer podcast, where they said, the part that they couldn't understand why BioWare cut it out is right at the beginning when it's panning up from the outside of the Walker mobile hub thing, and then it cuts to you jumping right into your suit. There's a section there where you talk to the people in your hub. Like, you actually have a little bit of conversation with not your companions, but the people who are on your crew, and they're like, that seemed like a really BioWare thing. Like, you got to see the other characters' faces, and you kind of got to have a little banter with them, and like, BioWare fans who are looking for a story and companionship probably would have really liked that. Why did they not include that? That makes me optimistic, but also somewhat skeptical, kind of like you said, from a marketing standpoint. Is it that the game doesn't have story elements and, good NPC conversations, or is it just that for this E3, they're trying to capture the Destiny audience, they're trying to capture the Division audience, and so they're marketing it as a shooter?
I don't know. It like people have asked like, oh, are we going to get like a story trailer or anything like that? And they'll make references to like different people you talk about and some like lore of the world, like with the gods and Fort Tarsis and your enemy and whatnot. So like I think it's that stuff is there. I really just don't know why they're not talking about it. They're also not talking about like, so they have the 4 suits. But we don't really know much about, like, I forget, it's the green one and the magic-y blue one. Like, they're not really talking about those two either, but they're really talking about the main one and the heavy one. Why aren't they talking about those other two? People are curious as to why that is. Like, it looks like they're finished, because you can see, like, gameplay footage of them doing all their things and whatnot, but for some reason they're just not talking about that, and that feels like something they would talk about if they're just focusing on the shooter aspect.
I think they're not done. Like, that's my big... I think the Storm is the one that they're hardly referencing at all. And I think... who was it? Game Informer, again, said that they were handed the wrong build at one point. Or they started... They were being shown the wrong build or something like that, because they got to play it as well, and they were able to load up the Storm. And they were like, oh. And so like they tried to fly around for it, and they was like, I played it for like 5 seconds, and somebody from Bioware was like, oh, no, not that one. And like took the controller and like swapped them out another build. Because I want to assume it's literally just not done. Like there's just some things that they weren't ready to show. And also, they don't want to show some really cool power or some real cool ability that for balance issues they end up taking out. And I think that the Storm is more, it seems more mage class-like. They said it's kind of like a glass cannon, so I imagine some of the powers are really going to have to be tinkered with before it's finalized.
And that's the one I'm interested in, because I like magic stuff, so I don't know, that kind of disappoints me. But like, they only have about 8 months. Like, that's, I don't know, it feels like they should be, like, if they're not done with that, I feel like they should be, like...
Well, I guess not done, not in like the technical like coding aspect of it or anything like that, but not done figuring out what they want for it. To this day, again, like I'm replaying Witcher 3, and like there are still people who say like, the ARD sign isn't the same as it was in that E3 demo. The Igni sign is a little bit different. Like, they actually call out the specific powers that you have, obviously, because you have the same powers in Witcher all the time. But, like, oh, it worked differently, or, like, the radius was a little bit bigger on the... You know what I mean? Like, they nitpick the fact that they showed something at E3 that ends up being different. I'm thinking it's more like that. Bioware doesn't want to get burned by that.
Oh, so it's more about just trying to keep it consistent.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, like, people are already harping on the fact that the missile launcher thing got changed from, like, a basic power on the Ranger to, like, what do they call it? The ultimate power? Like, you have to fill up your meter or whatever. So, like, that got changed from the first gameplay demo.
Why do people get upset about that? Like, I don't know.
people start playing the game in their mind, and they get attached to it.
I guess, yeah. Well, what are your thoughts on Anthem? Are you excited? Lukewarm?
It's been a whole range of emotions. I got to one point where I was literally going like, I don't know if I'm going to play this on launch. I was just so despondent about it. When I heard Mark Dara, and so for people, because I'm going to reference this a bunch, and who knows, for all I know, maybe he's already clarified it. There's an IGN video that is basically just interviews cut together with Casey Hudson, Mike Gamble, Mark Dara. And Mark Dara says something to the effect of, this is inherently designed as a 4-player experience. They've said some variation of that a bunch of times. Like, they've said, hey, you can play solo, but it's best to play with friends. And you can absolutely play the game by yourself. That's totally, it's made for that also. This is the first time someone said inherently designed for a 4-player experience. That's a lot different than saying it's solo, but you can play with friends. Another thing that I thought was really concerning, Joe Juba of Game Informer, who just did he wrote the cover story for Game Informer. Phenomenal coverage by Game Informer on E3 in general. Really, I'm not a huge fan of mainstream gaming press typically. Game Informer, thumbs up, man. They've done some great work. But Joe Juba was saying on the Game Informer podcast that when he was talking with them sort of informally, and they said he was asking about playing solo, and they were saying... what was the exact wording? Oh, it's going to be tough. So he was saying, when they say that, it's like there's two different ways you can say that. You can say it as like, well, it's going to be tough, but like, it's you can play solo, it's very viable. And then there's sort of, it's going to be tough, which sort of means more like you really shouldn't do that. And he was saying that the impression that he got was it's the second one. It's not that it's going to be a little tough, like you might have to, et cetera, et cetera. He was like, no, like, yeah, like, you probably shouldn't do that. That was the impression that he took away from it. And, that's pretty concerning if that's the case, because I really don't want to play through this co-op. Like, I really don't.
I'd be interested to know if, like, because they keep hinting that it's going to be like one of those games that's like continually updated. Like, how different is Anthem going to look when it releases and then a year from then? Like, if because it's the so when the thing with the romance came out and like, oh, there's no romance, and everyone's like losing their fucking minds. It then started like they started changing their answer to like, no, there isn't romances, to we haven't planned it yet. Like, I don't know, kind of angling of like, well, we could one day, which I think is curious. And like, yeah, I guess they could. Like, they's like, oh, well, there's some flirting scenes, but there's no like romance scenes, so maybe we'll add it later. So like, if they keep, if Anthem is a game that they're designing like the base now and then continues to grow, like Anthem could be extremely different from when it releases from, February 22nd, 2019 to February 22nd, 2020 could be like a completely different experience. Like, a lot of the stuff we're complaining about now, they could patch in, patch out, do whatever. So like, it's almost weird to talk about, because I feel like a major game plan with Anthem is just they're going to release it on the 22nd, see what works and what doesn't, and then just try to tweak the game in ways that like the fans want. And that's kind of what I'm getting from their answers. So
I think that's actually 100% correct. That's a really good point to make also. And in fact, we know based on other games that are like this, that is precisely what happened. So that's a really good call out, is that, Destiny took a lot of criticism for not having enough story, for the narrative really not being strong. And so, they addressed that as much as they could in their major DLC packs, at least, where the story ended up getting a lot better and, more cutscenes and things like that. So I think they definitely shifted. You're right. That could totally happen. Anthem on the romances thing, too, in case anyone didn't see it. I think most people who are, looking for this definitely saw it. They said no romances. And then Casey Hudson, in an interview with Variety, kind of clarified that a little bit, where he said, what people kind of know us for is these full romantic, subplots where you have a love scene or something like that sort of towards the end and you're in a relationship with another character. And he said, you're going to have interactions with some NPCs that are going to be kind of flirtatious and that they could, sort of be taken somewhat as a romance, but we wanted to level set with people so they know up front it's not going to be the full romance that you're expecting. So when I heard that, I thought, okay, that's decent, right? Like, not every game is going to be conducive to having romantic subplots. This one isn't, and they're being upfront about it. That's perfectly fair. But like you said, maybe there's going to be some DLC where they do have that.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think overall I'm just open to it. Like, I feel like whatever we don't like, they're going to listen to us a little bit. Like, maybe it won't be the way we want. Maybe it'll take a long time. But, like, I don't know. I think with just what I see, I'm still interested in seeing what it's like and, like, playing with some of my friends who aren't really into the Bioware experience, but rather shooters and co-op games. So I guess, like, I'm interested in that aspect. And I also feel like Anthem in general, I feel like it's being marketed to not us. Like, it's being marketed to not Bioware fans, which is kind of odd, but I think that's... I think Bioware knows that this game isn't a typical Bioware game. Yeah. So they're marketing towards not their typical fans, which kind of leaves the fans going like, well, hold on. Well,
there's this thing, right? There's this really unfortunate saying that's been said for... Well, it was said for years about comic book movies. I don't think that people say that necessarily anymore post-Disney, post-Marvel. But for years, what they said about comic book movies is you don't have to make it for comic book fans. Comic book fans are coming anyway. You have to make it for everybody else. If you put Batman in the title, doesn't matter what comic book fans think. They're going to show up because it has Batman in the title. That's a real. I think that's really wrong. And ultimately, Marvel and Disney prove that. You actually profit by sort of making things for the fans, but maybe it's a little bit of that. The BioWare fans the Mass Effect fans are coming no matter what. Make it for everybody who's not already playing our games. No, go ahead.
Well, I was about to say, like, I've heard a lot of Mass Effect fans being angry at Anthem because Anthem destroyed Mass Effect Andromeda.
No, Montreal did that.
Say, like, maybe if it wasn't necessarily Montreal, like, what I see from what I heard, and I mentioned this in the video I put out, like, what killed Andromeda was that they gambled on a thing that they couldn't deliver on ultimately. If that idea, the randomly generated worlds panned out, like, I think the game would have maybe worked a bit more, but it didn't, so then they scrambled to fill in the holes, and we got what we got. So...
Yeah, no, we talked it to death, but like ultimately, they're people, they're fallible. Somebody should have fixed it long ahead, and you're right, they should have gotten a clearer vision for it earlier. But, I have to say this because I thought about it right as we were talking about romances, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Do you remember? We just said they might do DLC where they have basically love scenes, right? Do you remember when we talked about the Sex and Bioware games episode? This is exactly what we said. We said, oh, did we? We said, make it paid DLC. We said, make it microtransactions.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about that.
We predicted this.
Oh, no.
Split the Veil, exclusive prediction, coming true. I'm calling it right now. They're going to have microtransaction love scenes.
Well, they said that in the, I don't think it was about the romance necessarily, but they keep saying that, like, story content wouldn't be paid or something like that, and the only payment you're going to have to pay for is, like, cosmetic things. So once you buy the game, you get all the things, is what they're kind of saying. So I don't know if they're going to stick with that, but that's kind of what they're going for. Honestly,
and people are going to think I'm so evil for saying this. I'm half joking, I'm half not joking. I hope they do make it paid DLC. I would just love for there to be a case study for that. Just so that companies... Because, like, there's the whole controversy with Steam taking off games that are really sexually explicit, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, can you imagine a mainstream popular game doing something like that, and like what if it's just insanely profitable? Like what if they start making GTA Online money with the sex scene microtransactions? Like I think that would be hilarious.
Would they have like a tier, like the $1 one is like you hold hands, the $2 one you go to second base, like the $20 one is like just hardcore.
That's amazing. Oh god. And you know there's gonna be somebody who pays for like the $3 PG-13 one, and they're just like, oh man, I gotta have the rest.
I gotta go all the way.
And they have like Steam sales, right? Like the summer sale where everything is super cheap, but then like they get you hooked, and so then you gotta have more.
It's like a story where like
oh yeah.
There's the BDSM add-on. There's the
50 Shades of Anthem.
Oh no.
Come on, EA. You're telling me this is not a good idea?
Oh, I mean, I would. There's like that muscly mechanic guy who looks kind of Polynesian. I don't know if you remember that guy.
You can buy different outfits for him.
I was going to say he'd be the star, but whatever.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Hey.
I think this is like, on the one hand, I'm like, this would ruin gaming, and then on the other hand, I'm like, this would be amazing.
Oh well, the cynical part is that's hilarious, and they could never do that. But I don't know, what if 20 years down the line, Bioware just said, fuck it, we're porn games now, because that's what you fuckers buy.
Well, that's kind of like what I'm so intrigued by, is like everybody says, we don't like microtransactions, and I'm sure everyone would object to saying, like, how dare you treat us as though we're all just, pitching a tent over here and all we care about is sex. But every time somebody says that, I'm just like, so how come porn is the most profitable thing on the internet, despite the fact that it's massively free? Like, and yet somebody is still paying for it. It's like, come on, man.
It's those people with kinks. They just, they shell it out, man. Like, when I was in high school, which, that's a whole other thing, I had a bunch of artist friends who were also underage, but they would often get, paid fairly well to draw furry porn.
Huh.
A big portion of, artists I know, they got their start making commissions on fucking furry porn.
Who would have thought?
To this day, I can't, in good conscience, overly make fun of furries, because they just support the art industry, and I respect that.
They also beat people up. There's that one video in Russia where they all get out of the bus. Have you ever seen this?
What? No!
Just look up furry bus beat up. I don't know. You'll find it. It's hilarious.
All right. I'm not surprised. Russia just...
It's like a road rage incident where this guy gets out with a bat, and then 5 furries jump out of a bus and just beat the crap out of him.
That sounds exactly like Russia, to be honest. every road rage incident that appears on camera is almost always in Russia.
Yeah, so they have that weird thing, right, where there's so many of them that everybody has a dash cam. They have it for insurance purposes.
Mm-hmm. But then you get all the furries.
Oh, thank God.
Anyway, how we went places from where we were talking about.
Sex microtransactions. Love seeing microtransactions. Which I mean, again, I'm 51% facetious, but 49% serious in the sense of if it was majorly profitable, if it was so profitable that BioWare didn't have to do anything else, could they give us Dragon Age Tactics and, bring back Mass Effect? You know what I mean? Could they just have one profit maker that funds all of the stuff that we really want?
Mm-hmm.
That's my one hope for Anthem. It's even if I don't love it, if it becomes GTA 5 online big, that is an insane moneymaker where they could have a true, not a B team, but a true, A1, A2 team, and they could be in full-time development on 2 games at once, and they could always have the next Anthem thing, the full Anthem support, and the Dragon Age we want, the Mass Effect we want, etc.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. After all that yelling, you gotta get a drink, Holden.
No, I'm serious. That was hilarious when you said $1 for the hold hands.
One day.
Oh, God. That's the best idea we've ever had. It's just the sex microtransactions.
We gotta somehow what's the term, copyright it and sell it to other companies.
If anybody out there has better Photoshop skills than me, if you can please Photoshop a fake UI onto an Anthem screenshot that has $1 for hold hands. Oh God. You would be my best friend forever. If somebody sends me something that they can do stuff like that and it's reasonable, I might even pay you for that just to troll people.
There's this guy on Twitter, and like I'm not saying shout out Octafluoride, you don't actually have to do this, but he's really good with that type of stuff. So like again, snap. My dude, you don't have to do it, but that would be funny.
Because I can just imagine posting that on the sub. I'm being such a troll right now. I'm such a troll. But if you could just imagine posting that on the subreddit for Anthem. Oh, no. And I love you. I love you, Anthem subreddit. I think you guys are cool. I think, it's a good mixture of Mass Effect fans versus people who don't give a crap about Bioware games before this. But all in good fun. I joke. I kid. I don't want them. The thing I have to remember is if I do that and then they find this section of the podcast, they're going to eviscerate me. I love you guys.
I feel like it would be done in a way where they would be like, oh, haha, it's a joke. I don't know. I feel like if you aim it as a joke, it would be fun.
Also, I kind of like it because, like, I am the classic Bioware fan, kind of tentative about the whole Anthem sort of situation. I kind of feel like it's a nice troll of both audiences. Does that make sense? Like, you're trolling the loot shooter fans and you're trolling the Bioware fans who want romances and everything. So I kind of feel like I'm being balanced in that way.
That's fair. I would like to, I think you were the first one to point it out, but in the Anthem trailer, you had like a screenshot. It was like, oh, there's an N7 customization.
Yeah.
I've seen that image everywhere. Like, I think it's specifically yours. People keep reposting it places.
Yeah, I think that might be. And it's only, it's... For me, who has a relatively small following on Twitter, it's like definitely my most retweeted tweet ever.
Mm-hmm. So congrats on getting famous now. All your images everywhere. But well, yeah, I want to see all the different customizations and like because I feel like okay, this is random. We're gonna be playing Mass Effect Andromeda later today. I hate the Andromeda character creator. I hate it. It's awful.
It's not good.
But if they had that character creator in Anthem, I think I'd be fine with it. Because in Anthem, it's I feel like it's not really about the person you create. It's about the suits and the adventure and that type of thing. So in that regard, if they don't have a lot of customizations with your face, but they have a lot with the suit, then that's fine. I think that's perfectly reasonable. They just didn't work in Andromeda because Andromeda it's about your captain and blah blah blah. So
you're being so you're being so nice. You're being so reasonable. No, I'm not saying you're wrong for that. I'm sitting here going like, Caitie is treating this the way an adult should treat this. I am not. Because I am fucking pissed that the goddamn character creator isn't going to be like a stripped down character creator. When Mark Dara was on stage doing the press conference, he said, "You are not your suit, etc. Your character, etc." And then the next question was, "What character customizations are there?" And he goes, "Well, you've got a bunch of ways to customize your suit." And I go, "You just said we're not our suit." And then he answered a customization question about customizing the suit, and that just frustrated the hell out of me because I'm like. In Destiny, the quote-unquote character creator is like 3 screens. It's nothing. And so I hope it's not going to be that stripped down. Mm-hmm. But you're right. If it was like the Andromeda character creator, that level of detail would seem fair, I guess, for Anthem. I think that's more a statement on how bad it is for Mass Effect, honestly, that we're saying it would be appropriate in Anthem. That makes it totally inappropriate in Mass Effect. But
now here's a crackpot theory. What if Andromeda didn't have that much to go on, and we boot up Anthem, and it's the exact same? So Andromeda actually stole Anthem's character creator.
Oh, people would be even more pissed.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope they don't do that for their own sake. Jesus, throw a different skin on there, like make it look different somehow.
Yeah, different customizable heads at least. You cannot use the same people, otherwise they're gonna be like, "Okay, hold on, I recognize head number 7."
Everybody recognizes head number 7 because before they did head number 10, it was the only one that was usable.
Yeah, I don't know. Like that we're about to. I mean, I think we've already marked 0 on our complaining about Andromeda board. But we're going to have a whole live stream, which if you're listening to this is probably already posted, where we complain about it, why I go through it. So let's save that for then. But oh boy, I don't know. I think I'm getting the sense that you're not as excited as I am, which is what I mean. You said that, but I'm hopeful for it. Like if I had the money, I'd pre-order it. You know, like I don't mind it at all. I kind of I don't know. I want to play it. I want to see what it is. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think, hopefully my skepticism does me some good. The least amount of hype train that I can get away with, I'll probably go with that. Just because, ultimately I cannot imagine me not playing it. I think the worst throughout all of this E3, the worst thing I thought was I'm not going to play this at launch. I'm going to wait to get it on sale or something like that. Now I'm kind of like, that last Casey Hudson interview in Variety kind of... I think I still need to see more. I can't imagine I wouldn't play it. And because I've played every Bioware game that's ever come out, right? So I can't imagine there's one that I would not play. And ultimately, maybe I'll have a better time with it if my expectations are just really low and I let them surprise me. Maybe that's kind of the angle that I'm coming at it from. And I hope it's good. I mean, certainly I never wish for a game to be bad. I hope, and honestly, even if I don't like it and it's totally not my cup of tea and I hate it, I hope they knock it out of the park. I hope their Call of Duty successful. I hope their Fortnite successful. I hope their GTA Online successful. I hope they hit a goddamn home run. And, because I want Bioware to be successful. Other news that kind of came out, small news, but Casey Hudson saying we're absolutely coming back to Mass Effect. Basically what he said was he didn't say this exactly, but the gist of it was, when, not if. Like it's going to come back. We just don't know when and how. I want Bioware to be massively successful so that can happen. DA4 is in the works. We've already sort of set our piece on the one video that I chipped in with on your channel where, we kind of talk about that. We want DA4 to be successful and have lots of money and time to get made. I want Anthem to be mega successful, even if it ends up not being my cup of tea.
Yeah, same, pretty much. But, well, speaking of Mass Effect, did we want to talk about the quote-unquote Dragon Age update that we had with those articles that came out?
We probably should. Do we want to say anything else about Anthem? I feel like there was tons of information. I'm trying to remember if we covered everything.
I can't think of anything that was, like, super important that I saw that I wanted to bring up. Oh, one other thing, and again, I know I'm probably sounding pessimistic. I just want to harp on the right things. So if somebody's listening to this and they're trying to get my take on it, I'm talking about everything that I thought was noteworthy. So Jonathan Warner, game director for Anthem, had another interesting conversation. I can't remember where this was. I think it might have been one of the main YouTube E3 coverage interviews where they were talking about playing solo, and he said something to the effect of, if you're a really skilled player, if you're really looking for an extra challenge, and you're choosing the right class or whatever, you might be able to do it. He was saying something to the effect of, you're probably not going to be as viable with, say, the Storm because it's kind of glass cannon. You kind of might need to use the what's the tank one? Oh, I don't remember the tank one, but the tank one.
Whichever one is the tank class, you might have to use that because you can take higher damage. Stuff like that. Again, it kind of goes back to that Joe Juba interpretation of what they were saying with, quote, it's going to be tough. It more and more, it sounds like solo is possible, but it's not particularly viable, at least the way that they're balancing things now. That could change as we get closer to launch. I don't know how many people out there have played Assassin's Creed Unity, but AC Unity had some co-op missions that you could totally solo, but from a design standpoint, they were really tough to play by yourself. I mean, you really should have been playing them with people. And in the world, they were marked as typically regular side quests right up until the point when you were starting them. So, you can kind of get confused on what was or wasn't co-op. I just don't think, and this is my same objection to Fallout 76, saying that you can play solo is not the same thing as a single player experience. Right? Yeah. You can load up Mass Effect 3 co-op or Mass Effect Andromeda co-op and you can play that mode by yourself, but that's not how you're supposed to play it. Like playing with an empty lobby is not the same thing as a single player experience.
Yeah.
A single player experience is tailored to be that. And so the good news is, like you said, after launch, if there's a bunch of single player players saying we don't like this, that's a balance issue. I'm sure they can tweak that. I'm sure they can change it. If that's what ends up happening. So I kind of that's my main concern. I want to play it by myself, and I want to have not a terrible time being killed over and over again because I should have brought 3 people.
Maybe they so they have okay. So I'm remembering. Do you remember SimCity?
SimCity? I love SimCity.
Yeah. Yeah, but the most recent one, that one used to be online only, and then people got upset with it, and now it's not.
That's true.
So I'm wondering if maybe they'll do something like, granted, like this when they first released it to when it stopped being online, I think it was a while in between, I think over a year even. But what if they do the same with Anthem? If they find out that people are just not really into the whole co-op thing, like could they just make it so where you play single player, maybe I don't know, you have updates, like if you're having an event in the world or whatever, or if you're all right, I'm only going to play in a very kind of maybe stripped down version of the game, and that it doesn't have random events and whatnot, but the bases are still there. You can still play through the story. Maybe they have something like that, because not everyone has a really strong internet connection. I was talking with somebody where they live out in kind of an area where their internet sucks, or at least here for me, I don't have this service, but I have the option to choose a service where if I go beyond a certain bandwidth, I have to pay extra. So what happens to those people? Because there's still people using that type of service. So
that is
what happens there.
That is a really great point. I'm not even just saying that. That's a phenomenal point, and the reason why is because it's EA specific. A lot of people were upset with EA because of how they were having Maxis handle that. And actually, I actually played SimCity a lot when it came out. I actually love SimCity. And so I played during both eras, online only versus not online only. One thing that's really interesting about that, and why I'm actually I totally forgot about that. I'm really glad you brought it up. Because they had co-op specific features when they launched. In particular, the Great Works. Right, so and so in SimCity, if you were in a particular region, you had your city by yourself, but you could do trade and commerce with other players who were within that region. And the only way to complete these quote unquote great works for the region was to partner with other players in that region. I thought, that's a neat co-op feature, but whatever. I'm antisocial. I don't want to do that. Okay, and so eventually, when they turned it off the online only thing, you could control multiple cities in the same region, and you could do that yourself. So a specifically co-op feature became a non-co-op feature. I don't know. I think that's a really good point. I totally forgot about that, but at least it shows that EA is willing to do something like that if there's enough, outcry. That's actually a very good analogy.
Yeah, and especially since Anthem's going to be continually updated, I think there is room for a lot of the things that people have problems with. If enough people have problems with it, they'll actually end up changing it.
And you can still have the co-op. You can still treat that as a co-op feature if you want to play SimCity online.
They might just have in your instance where the monsters are just a little bit weaker, a little bit whatever. I don't know if you have you ever soloed Dragon Age Inquisition, where it's just you don't have any party members?
Ooh, no, I never have.
I've done it once. I did a really stupid build. For some reason, I really wanted to do a Canary Mage, but use the Blade of Tyradon, or how you pronounce it, where it's the mage sword. Mm-hmm. So I soloed during that for some reason, and I played it on casual because it was going to be hard. But it was a lot of fun. It was a completely different experience, but the game still treated it like you had 3 party members. There would all the time be cutscenes where the character would motion to someone, but nobody was there, and that type of thing. So I wonder if I don't know, It maybe it's just kind of like that, where the monsters still have the same level of health, and the cutscenes might be a little bit awkward, but it's still doable. It's still maybe instead of on it's in normal mode if you're out with 4 friends, but the less people you have, it's it is harder up the difficulty scale. So it's playing nightmare mode if you're on solo. It's still doable. It's just not not a lot of people would like it. So I don't know. You're iffy on it.
You're sorry. You're right to be optimistic, and you're actually making me think of even more stuff. So another thing to think of is the fact that on the Old Republic, which is again EA and Bioware, in a game that I've played a lot and that I've played for years since it came out, they changed the way that they did some of their flashpoints. So again, like your flashpoints are sort of their story content. There's definitely good story content in there, and they're sort of like raids, although they're not the same as the in-game raids. For many of those, you had to have a party, and they made it easy for you to meet up with people, and eventually they had a group finder, et cetera, et cetera. Well, at some point they just said, look, partly because our player base is shrinking, which is a whole nother story, partly because people are saying, I don't want to play these co-op. Eventually, they just retooled the balance of them, and now you can play every single Flashpoint single player. And that's in an MMO, right? That is an inherently online co-op experience, and those were designed for co-op, and eventually BioWare just changed it so you could play them single player.
Right, so yeah, with that in mind, I think it's almost a certainty that at some point in Anthem's lifetime, they're going to make it a lot more single player friendly. It's just when is the main question. So, who knows? Well said.
This is good that you have reminded me of these things. I feel honestly a little more optimistic now that we've talked about SimCity and Old Republic. Also note, I just remembered this. I never played Dragon Age solo, but for role play reasons, on one of my dwarf playthroughs, I just had it in my head that my Carta dwarf inquisitor would only like Varric. He didn't like anyone else. He literally especially in the beginning. So he ended up liking Dorian, and he ended up liking Iron Bull. But right at the beginning, he's like, I don't know who this Cassandra person is, but she's uptight and I don't like her. Don't come with me. Soulless, he's like, no, I don't like you. So I for a long time through the Hinterlands, it was just Varric and my one character.
I would argue Varric is one of the more useless characters, so that was basically playing solo.
Well, no, see, so it was interesting, right? So I was a rogue also, but it was a dual wielding melee rogue. So it was just this interesting thing of two dwarves adventuring. He's ranged, I'm melee. I actually enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. That sounds cool. I really enjoyed my solo. If you haven't done solo before, I recommend it. I again played on casual, but casual on solo felt like playing normal. If that makes any sense, because you were just overwhelmed with people all the time, especially since my build was stupid, but I had fun with it, so whatever. Anyway, do you want to go to Dragon Age, or?
Yeah, well, we're this is a good segue. We're kind of Dragon Aging our way into it. So kind of, I guess, do you want to recap the tweets that you and I kind of had back and forth about how all of the Anthem stuff affects Dragon Age?
I don't remember it as well, so I'm going to make you do it.
Okay. What do I remember about it? I guess basically I saw the quote from Casey Hudson in the Game Informer cover article, and, well, it would probably help if I actually looked it up directly.
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up right now.
Right, since we're going to be talking about it, I should probably at least know what it is properly. Okay, so Casey Hudson said... I would say a majority of people at BioWare are working on Anthem, but we do have people who are figuring out what a next Dragon Age would look like, says BioWare. Because that's basically it. And then he says Mass Effect is going to be coming back. So he says, quote, we do have people figuring out what a next Dragon Age would look like, which I took as that's the type of language that you use when you're in the nascent planning stages of a game, not what you would say during production or even necessarily in pre-production. But I think you kind of had more of the feel of, well, this is kind of what we already knew.
Mm-hmm. Because from the Jason Schreier article, he made it sound like, oh, they rebooted the next Dragon Age. So this kind of sounds exactly like that. I think they already have, because in the article it talks about they didn't reboot it for story reasons. They kind of rebooted it, quote unquote, for live, adding in more live elements. So I think it's not so much that they rebooted it completely, but I think they're trying to work in what these live elements could be, making it more like that game as a service. Maybe it has maybe they're just retooling the multiplayer. I feel like it's not so much the whole game, but some aspect of it they're trying to change and work around. I think the story's pretty solid. I think the artwork and stuff. I think it's more just trying to fit it in with the future of gaming, because this is going to take a while to come out now after Anthem. So they're trying to work around it. So I don't know. I feel like this doesn't... I felt like this only confirmed what we already knew, and I don't think this really added anything. So... And then Mark Doris said it was going swell. I don't know if that's any better. But
I don't know about if I was familiar with it when he said it was going swell. I think I remember that, but did people take that as like somehow not being a resounding endorsement or something? Like it didn't sound.
No, it was. Did you watch the video with it, or it was like that 100 questions, quick questions with Mark Dara? Yeah, and the guy was like, "How is Dragon Age?" And he was like hesitant to answer, and I think he said like, "Oh, one word," and he goes, "Swell." Like, you know, it sounded like he was trying to find a word that wasn't too spoilery, so he's like, "Yeah, it's fine, yeah."
Yeah, and also those interviews are definitely cut together to be as quick, brief as possible. So I imagine that was it.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not worried about it, but like my personality is not to worry about anything. So who knows? Maybe you do have to worry. It's just not who I am.
That's a better personality than my personality. my personality is like put index cards on your wall when you're writing a fan fiction. It's like I need to know every single possible point. That's just basically what I do, essentially, right? Even in my hobbies, in my profession, I'm just like, how do I factor in every single thing that could possibly be happening right now and don't underestimate anything?
Whereas in my profession, you have to look on the bright side.
This is why Split the Veil podcast is what you want to be listening to.
You get both sides.
Yeah, and no, you're right. I think ultimately, in the long view, we knew Dragon Age wasn't coming out anytime soon. Maybe for me, in my head, the release window is a little bit further out. It's probably a little bit close to what you were expecting anyway. I think that's the main difference. Mm-hmm. I was assuming that it was a little further along than I probably should have, which kind of changes my views on things a little bit. But not too much. I still think Anthem's going to do okay, and even if it doesn't, I think Dragon Age will still be given enough time to come to fruition. And Dragon Age Inquisition, we cannot forget this, was the most successful Bioware launch ever. And so,
and I think E3 or not E3, EA launch, wasn't it? Or
not the most successful EA launch, but definitely Bioware's.
Well, it was Game of the Year, so we got that.
it was Game of the Year because they were smart enough to not release in the same year as Witcher 3.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, I'm good. I don't think I would say I'm worried. I just think I noticed I kind of should shift my perspective a little bit. I just thought Dragon Age was a little bit further along, but yeah, worried. No, I wouldn't say I'm worried either.
There we go, folks. Don't be worried. Which, despite here's what I don't get. I know I don't reach all of the people in the Dragon Age fans. I know that a lot of the fans were really hoping and thinking about, Dragon Age coming up at this E3, even though they denied it 3 different times. But the amount of people I saw going why was there no Dragon Age at E3 just wanted to make me pull out my hair. Do you?
Well, first of all,
what were you thinking?
I have to make a major correction to something that I said, because you said what was the biggest disappointment. I mean, I think obviously, as we covered on this show, the major disappointment is the fact that there was no Snoop Dogg and Zac Efron at E3.
Right.
Come on.
You mean that entire thing was fake?
Right? No Rise of Tiamat? Come on.
Jordan, no.
I mean, we had such a credible source of that one site that looked like a fucking plain blogspot site that somebody put together 5 minutes before they posted that thing.
Well, they were correct in that Kingdom Hearts does have a release date that then immediately got changed.
I mean, there was Fallout. I mean, I guess they must have changed the name, right? From Fallout Nuevo El Paso to 76.
There you go. That was it. So even it's Fallout West Virginia, Nuevo El Paso.
Because those two places are exactly the same.
Yeah, it's right before the nuclear explosion. Just a bunch of people from Texas got up and moved to West Virginia.
Right.
You just don't know it yet.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
So it's in the deep Fallout lore. So. Anyway. Jesus Christ. I don't know. This is just me complaining about people that get angry at things that they thought, even though there was no basis for that. Come on, guys.
E3, it's been a good E3. I had fun live tweeting on many of the events. I had fun kind of parsing through and taking apart some of this stuff. I thought Jeff Keighley actually did some decent interviews. I give Jeff Keighley a hard time, because whatever. Mm-hmm. Poor guy. He's a working professional guy has been doing this a lot longer than most people, and yet all we ever remember about that guy is fucking Doritos and Mountain Dew, and that's unfortunate. I thought he actually did a decent job on some of his interviews. I don't know why I feel the need to give props. I guess because I'm that person who says things like, the gaming media and blah, blah, blah. I give him a hard time. I thought Jeff Keighley did an admirable job. I found out Jason Schreier of Kotaku doesn't take swag.
That was respectable, I thought.
I really enjoyed that, and I know some people might not think that matters, but to me that's an actual journalist move, and to me that shows that he takes his role seriously in that sense. Again, I have to call out Game Informer. I don't normally pay attention to the big sites anymore, but holy crap, Game Informer podcast is doing really good coverage. They did it on God of War, they did it on Andromeda, they're doing it now with their Anthem coverage. Their Assassin's Creed Origins coverage. They've done a lot of good stuff. So Joe Juba and Jesus Christ, I really should remember the Ben. Oh God, I feel terrible now that I can't remember his name. The main host of the Game Informer podcast. I think they're both doing really, really good work. And I thought IGN also had some really good coverage. So yeah, just calling out some of the big gaming press people for doing some good coverage on E3. Ben Hansen, host of Game Informer podcast.
This is where I make some stupid joke about asking if he was in the Hansen band, but
that's his former life. Yes.
Yeah, he's one of the Hansen brothers. Fun facts: that group came from the town I grew up in, so everyone really loved Hansen. But I can't tell you any other song other than Mbop. So. All right. But that was your fun fact of the day.
It was fun, and I believe that it's a fact.
All right. Well, I think that's all we had for today, right?
That's all we have for recording this podcast. And then, like we said, by the time people listen to this, the live stream will have already happened. So I hope everyone enjoyed the live stream. I hope I didn't get too drunk, and I hope everything worked out okay.
Yeah, please don't get drunk and go on some straight, get possessed by the spirit of a Ku Klux Klan member and go on a racist rant. I don't know.
No, but I do like doing Alex Jones impersonations. I thought.
Oh no. Well, hopefully you'll be all right. We still gotta set some things up, baby. We'll have to talk about that. But yeah, but if you're listening to this already, that should mean that the recording of it is already on Jordan's channel, or it's close to being out there. Sometimes, after you stream, it has to process a little bit, but we'll get that up there. We'll tweet out the link when it's ready and whatnot. So I think with that, Jordan, where can they find you to look for that video?
Well, they can find me on YouTube. Look for The Exalted March. On Twitter, I am at The Exalted March. Instagram, also at The Exalted March.
And I'm Caitie Ghildirthalen on Twitter and YouTube, and then Gilnon on Reddit for, I don't know if you want to say hi. Or give we also take requests if you want to hear us talk about something on the podcast. We're always open to it. So I think with that, guys, the rest are all...